Hey, and welcome back to another one. My name is Kyle. Today we're going to be restringing a Martin D-18V. Now, this is maybe the best guitar I've ever played, and I get to say that it's mine, which I'm very lucky. Here I am just taking a look at the action, which at the 12th fret is 5/64, and on the treble side it is 3/64. That's a tad on the high side, but this guitar plays really nicely and it sounds great, so I'm not going to change anything. It's just nice to take a look every now and then, make sure it's in spec. Here I'm taking a look at the neck relief. I'm pushing on the 14th fret and on the 1st fret, and then I'm looking in between at the 7th fret, which we can see right here, and seeing how much space is between the string and the fret. We can see there's barely anything there, so I'm not going to change that. If you're doing a full setup on this, you might make a slight adjustment to give the neck a little bit more relief if the guitar is playing stiff, or if you're having some buzzing, which this guitar does not have, so I'm not going to be making any adjustments there. Here I'm just going through every note and making sure that there's no buzzing sounds, no unwanted fret noise, in which case I would do some fret work or add some relief into the neck. Now, that can also be caused by old strings, so if there are some noises that you don't want, then go ahead and put new strings on it first before you decide to make any sort of setup changes. Okay, now it's time to just go ahead and loosen up the strings. There was some old debate a while ago about should you be doing all the strings at once, and I have heard this going around mostly in beginner circles, this myth that you should only restring your guitar one string at a time because a guitar likes to have tension on the neck. Yes, a guitar does like to have tension on the neck, but no, you do not need to do that. Go ahead and just take all your strings off. What you don't want to do is just go ahead and chop them. That sudden change in tension could cause some issues. So you do want to make sure you loosen all the strings like I did here and then cut them. Go ahead and pull these off. Here, when you're pulling these off of the headstock, off of the tuners, make sure to keep just pulling straight up and away, as those ends can be sharp and you don't want to scratch the top of your guitar as you're pulling those away. Go ahead and you're just going to throw those away. Here you can see this little notch on the back of your string winder. Every string winder I've ever seen has this, and that is to pry up the bridge pins out of your bridge. And so you're just going to go ahead and pull those up. These should not be that hard to pull up. Sometimes they can get stuck if your string holes or string slots are really tight, or if somebody pushed them down really hard. They should not be that hard. If they are, and if it's stuck, don't try and yank it up. What you want to do is reach in the sound hole and push it up from the bottom side. Sometimes you can use a piece of leather or something like that to help you do that. Here's another tip for you. Don't buy guitar polishing cloths. They can be expensive and they can be colors like black or gray. I like to use just 100% cotton flannel and get it in white. So here I just go to a fabric store and get a bunch of yards of it. And then you have Ultimate. It's a microfiber style fabric, and so it works perfect for cleaning and for polishing. So I'm just going to cut out a chunk here. The reason I get white is because it allows you to see if there's any metal or any plastic or any chunks that could cause damage to your finish. If you're working around guitars, it's common to have little bits of metal here and there, and you really don't want that embedded into your polishing cloth as you go to town on your guitar. I'm going to use the Dunlop 65 guitar polish here. Just do a light mist. If you have a guitar that has a finish like this, a gloss finish, you can just spray a little bit of it on the body. There's nothing wrong with that. If you do have a satin finish guitar, be very careful about how you're polishing it up. You don't want to really scrub or spray any sort of polish directly on it. Spray it on the cloth. Don't get it super wet, and then be very gentle about how you're doing that. A satin finish, you can actually buff that satin finish out of it, and you can't. It's very difficult to get that finish back on there. Here I am taking a piece of quad aught steel wool onto my frets. You don't need anything too abrasive here, just a little something to polish these up. This is what I like to use. You can see a little bit of scratching on the fingerboard. That is not a big deal at all. That is just, that's going to polish right out as soon as we put some oil on there. So that's not doing any sort of damage. You want to get onto the sides of those frets. You don't have to do this, but it's nice to polish up those frets every now and then. The next thing I'm going to do, because we saw those fibers there of that metal, you don't want that hanging around your guitar or underneath of it. You could scratch your guitar up doing that. So I always take a vacuum, make sure you vacuum up all those little bits and pieces of the steel wool after you're done. Now I'm going to oil the fretboard, use the Dunlop 65 lemon oil. This stuff works really well. You don't need much of it at all. You'll see here that even this is a little bit too much. You want to rub it in. Word is that rubbing it in, causing some friction, allows the pores of the wood to actually open up and accept more oil. I don't know if that's actually true. I don't know if you need a microscope or something to actually verify, see if that is actually true or not. This is an ebony board, so it's a very, very hard wood, but at any rate, I really get some friction going and rub that oil in nicely, and then I'm going to rub the excess off. You don't want this getting on your strings right away and automatically, kind of from the beginning, starting to corrode your strings with oil. I'm going to be using the D'Addario 12 to 53 set here. That's a light gauge. That's the most common gauge that you're going to be using and what I would recommend for any sort of beginner for their acoustic guitar. Now, what you're doing here is you're pushing the string in, and here I'm showing how the string is going to go down into the guitar and then go up through that channel in your bridge pin. You're going to be pushing the bridge pin down and then pulling up at the same time on the string, making sure that the ball end of the string is seated against the bottom of the bridge plate inside the guitar. And I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a second. You want to make sure that's the case, because if there is space between the ball end of the string and the bridge plate and you start tensioning the string, it could pop and then cause damage actually to that bridge plate. So this is what it should look like. All of those ball ends are snug right up against the bottom of the bridge plate, and that all looks good. So we're going to go ahead and start stringing it up. So you put it through the post, pull it to the next tuner, and then pull it back, and then start winding. And you see I put a little pressure on there to get that initial bend. I do one pass over the string, and then the rest of them under. And you'll see that I do that on every single other one. I'm going to say it right now. Don't do the interlocking thing. That is just a pain. You don't have to worry about your strings slipping with this setup. If you're changing strings, if your strings are really starting to slip, you either have an issue with your tuners or it's time to get new strings on your guitar. So just pass it through, pull it straight all the way to the next tuner, and then grab that little bit of string, push it back to the tuner that the string is going through, and that will give you the extra amount of string that will wrap around the post of the tuner. What you want is, and again, one wrap above and the rest of them below. That gives you the right break angle over the nut. You don't want it to be, that break angle to be too little. You want to make sure that the wraps are going downward, because if that break angle isn't steep enough, then you can get weird buzzing and weird intonation issues and other problems like that. Here's another close-up. This one is in your, this is the B string, the first unwound string. And this one, the length of it could be a little bit longer because the string wraps are taking up less space on the tuner post. It's not really that big of a deal. as long as you have enough. You know, that right there would be enough. But I usually like to do these two just a little bit longer, and then they give you just a little bit more of that break angle over the nut. I always clip the ends of these right away so I don't have those annoying string ends getting in the way of my work. Now I just want to make sure that these are seated nicely. Again, I am not pushing hard here. I'm just making sure that they're all, you know, pushed in just so that they're even. All right, now we're just going to go ahead and tune the guitar up. I like these clip-on tuners. I'm going to have all this stuff in the description of the video below, all the stuff that I use to change strings and to work on guitars. Here is probably the most important part of this, is that you're stretching the strings. So you get it up to pitch, stretch your strings like this. It's bending the strings between the thumb and the fingers on both hands, and then going to tune it up again. It's going to drop probably about half of a note, and then you're going to tune everything back up, and then you're going to do it again. Do this 3 times or until you are stretching your strings and the pitch doesn't change. But most of the time that takes about 3 times through. And now the only thing left to do is to try it out and see how your new strings sound. Don't those fresh strings sound so much better than your old junky ones? Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below. Follow along, and we'll see you in the next one.